Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. I never thought that the tables would turn so drastically in my favor. For years, I've been the one getting the short end of the stick. And now karma is finally hitting my brother back in the butt. Growing up, my brother and I never had the best relationship. He was always the golden child, getting good grades and excellent in sports, while I struggled to keep up. My parents were always quick to praise him and criticize me, even if I was doing my best. It wasn't until we were older that I realized how manipulative my brother could be. He would play up his helpless act to get my parents to do things for him, even if it meant throwing me under the bus. For years, I put up with it, always taking the blame for things that he did wrong. But things came to a head last year. My brother was going through a rough patch in his relationship, and he came to me for advice. I told him what I honestly thought, but he didn't like it. He accused me of being jealous of him and trying to ruin his happiness. A few weeks later, I found out that he had told our parents that I had said some pretty terrible things about them. I was shocked and hurt that he would stoop so low, and my parents were very upset with me. I tried to explain what had really happened, but they didn't want to hear it. Now, last week, my parents called me out of the blue, asking me to apologize to my brother. He had hit a rough patch in his life again, and they thought that my negative energy was the cause of it. I was livid. I had spent years putting up with this crap, and now they wanted me to take the blame for his problems? I told them exactly how I felt. I told them that I was tired of being the scapegoat for my brother's mistakes and that I was happy karma was finally catching up to him. I could hear the shock in their voices, but I didn't care. It was time for me to stand up for myself and stop letting him walk all over me. Since then, I haven't heard from my parents or my brother. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I know one thing for sure. I won't be the one apologizing this time. In fact, I feel a sense of relief now that I've finally spoken my truth. For too long, I let my brother's actions and my parents' favoritism dictate my life. But now, I feel like I've broken free from those chains. It's not like I'm happy that my brother is going through a rough patch, but I am glad that he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. I hope that this will be a wake-up call for him to start treating people better. As for me, I'm focusing on my own life now. I've started working on my passion project, something I've been putting off for years because of my lack of confidence. But now, I'm ready to take on the world and prove to myself that I'm capable of greatness. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'll be okay. I finally found my voice and I won't let anyone silence it again. I just hope that someday my parents will understand where I'm coming from and realize that I'm not the bad guy in this situation. For now, I'll just take things one day at a time and see where life takes me. But I'm ready for whatever comes my way. After all, I've already faced the worst of it. Update 1. A few days after our heated phone call, my parents called me again. I was hesitant to pick up, but I knew that I couldn't avoid them forever. As soon as I answered, they launched into an apology. They said that they didn't realize how much I had been struggling and how unfair they had been to me all these years. They admitted that they had been blinded by my brother's charm and had neglected to see his flaws. I was surprised by their admission, but I appreciated their honesty. Then they brought up the apology again. They said that my brother was going through a tough time and that he needed my support. They wanted me to apologize for what I had said to him and to try to repair our relationship. I listened patiently, but I knew that I couldn't just brush this under the rug. I told them that I appreciated their apology, but that I couldn't apologize for something that I didn't do. I explained that my brother had been manipulating them for years and that I was tired of being the one who had to suffer for his mistakes. My parents were taken aback by my words, but I could tell that they were also starting to see things from my perspective. They asked me to give them some time to process everything and to think about how we could move forward. For the next few weeks, things were quiet. I didn't hear from my parents or my brother, and I focused on my own life. I threw myself into my passion project and I started to see some real progress. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. Then, one day, my parents called again. This time, they sounded different. They were more subdued, and there was a hint of sadness in their voices. They told me that my brother had hit rock bottom. His girlfriend had broken up with him, he had lost his job, and he was struggling with addiction. They didn't know what to do, and they were desperate for help. I felt a twinge of sympathy for my brother. I told my parents that I would be willing to talk to my brother, but that I wouldn't apologize for something that I didn't do. I also made it clear that I wasn't going to be his emotional crutch or his scapegoat anymore. My parents understood and they gave me my brother's new phone number. I dialed the number. When my brother answered, he sounded like he had been crying. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I remembered everything that he had done to me over the years and I steeled myself. We talked for a while and I could tell that he was in a really bad place. But he didn't apologize for what he had done and he didn't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. It was like he expected me to just forgive him and forget everything that had happened. I couldn't do that. I told him that I was sorry that he was going through a rough time, but that I couldn't be his emotional crutch anymore. I explained that I needed him to take responsibility for his actions and to start treating people better. He didn't take it well. He accused me of being selfish and heartless, and he hung up on me. I sat there for a while, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me was relieved that I had finally stood up to him, but part of me was also sad that things had turned out this way. In the end, I decided to focus on myself and my happiness. I couldn't control my brother's actions or his life, but I could control my own. Update 2. It's been a while since I updated you guys on the whole situation. A few months went by and I didn't hear anything from my brother or my parents. I assumed that they had given up on trying to reach out to me and I was okay with that. I had moved on and I was content with the life that I had built for myself. But then, one day, I received a letter in the mail. It was from my parents. They apologized again for everything that had happened, and they thanked me for being patient with them. They said that they had finally seen my brother's true colors, and that they were ashamed of how they had treated me in the past. They also said that my brother had checked himself into rehab and was doing well. They didn't expect me to forgive him, but they hoped that we could at least be civil to each other. I was surprised by the letter, but I was also relieved. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. They also said that they were writing to me because they thought this would delay their intentions and show their effort rather than just calling me. I wrote back to my parents, thanking them for their apology and for their support. I also wished my brother the best of luck in his recovery, but I made it clear that I still wouldn't be available to him emotionally. In these past few months, I've focused on building my own life and my own happiness. I've made new friends, pursued new interests, and started a successful business. I still talk to my parents occasionally, but my relationship with my brother remains strained. I don't know if we'll ever be able to repair our relationship, but I've come to accept that it's okay. Sometimes people just can't get along, no matter how hard they try. In the end, all of this has made me stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. And while I wouldn't wish my experiences on anyone else, I know that they've helped me become the person that I am today. I think OP did the right thing by standing up to his brother and not letting him continue to abuse him. It's not fair for someone to take advantage of another person's kindness and good nature. The brother is the a-hole here. NTA. OP's parents dropped the ball by not doing more to intervene when they saw how their son was treating his brother. It's not enough to just ask one person to apologize. They should have sat down with both of their sons and talked through the issues together. And by trying to force OP to apologize when he had done nothing wrong, they were only giving more rope for their own son to pull. I can't believe the nerve of OP's brother to treat him so poorly for all those years and then act like he's the victim. He deserves everything that's coming to him, and I think OP was right not to forgive him just like that. Next story. Me, female 36, and my husband Will, male 35, have 3 kids: Adam, male 9, Maddie, female 7, and Megan, female 6. Will has always been into video games, Star Wars and anime, etc. It's never been my cup of tea, but I think it's healthy that we have separate hobbies and interests, and we have other stuff in common. When we had Adam, Will was super excited to share his interests with him and brought him Star Wars themed baby grows and toys, etc. For Adam's first Halloween, Will dressed him up as Darth Vader, and it was super cute. It was the same for the girls. I did tell Will that I had no issue with this while the kids were small, but we had to let them develop their own interests. As it turns out, both Adam and Maddie love playing computer games with their dad and has similar interests, so there have been no issues. The problem now is that as Megan is getting older, she is showing more interest in princesses and Barbies, etc., and finds her dad's and siblings' interests boring. Will seems to have an issue with this and keeps trying to encourage Megan more towards his interests. At Halloween, he seemed annoyed that Megan wanted to dress as Elsa, as he always took pride in Maddie not dressing up as a princess like lots of her classmates. This Christmas, it has come to a head as Will spent all of Boxing Day playing the Switch with Adam and Maddie and helping them build Lego while leaving Megan out. Will has offered Megan to play with them, but she wants to play with her new toys and the games that she likes. I played with Megan most of the day, but she asked if she could play her new Barbie game on the Switch for a while with her dad. I told them all to let her have a turn and play the Barbie game with Megan. Adam and Maddie were actually fine and seemed to have fun, but Will kept making fun of the game and telling Megan that other games like Mario Kart were far more fun. I could see Megan losing confidence in wanting to play the game, and she started to say she didn't want to play anymore, so I pulled Will aside and told him off and said that while he was a great dad to Adam and Maddie, he was being a bad dad to Megan for ignoring her interests. Will was really hurt by being called a bad dad and has been quiet ever since. The kids are now starting to notice that their dad is upset. I'm now wondering if I was too harsh, as he is generally a good dad, and I do know that he loves Megan as much as he loves Adam and Maddie. Edit. Thank you all for your comments. It's been really helpful to read through them all, although some were hard to read. Will saw this post, which I have to admit to myself I knew was a possibility as I used real names. We are going to have a long talk after the kids are in bed this evening, but he has apologized to Megan and surprised her with tickets for the Frozen musical in the West End, and they are currently making plans for a daddy-daughter day out to London to have fun and see the show. I'm hoping this was the kick up the arse he needed, as I do genuinely believe he is a good dad and a good man. NTA, he sounds almost misogynistic. He doesn't like that the youngest likes girl things, took pride in Maddie not wanting to dress up like a princess, and has interests that are less typically girl interests. Kinda screams he's proud because she's not like other girls. Discourages and criticizes things he thinks are stupid, which again seems to line up with girly things. Just might be something to seriously think about and consider. I get being bored or annoyed with a kid's video game, but criticizing it and putting your kid's interests down is just gross. I may also just expect more emotional maturity and emotional intelligence from an adult, though. NTA, I'm late to this and just want to add that this is also a bit of a warning flag for your marriage. You say you've never had an interest in these things? Yet your husband is mocking and not connecting with his own kids unless they share these interests. What does that say about his attitude towards you and your relationship? In general, I'd say it's fine for couples to have separate interests, but when a member of that couple shows this level of disdain towards other interests, it would make me wonder what exactly the couple has as a foundation. If he's incapable of connecting with his own child outside of his stuff, what's his connection with you? Does he like you for you? If this is his attitude to not shared interests, is he secretly looking down on your interests in the same way and internally mocking you? Worth a conversation, I think. Next story. This happened a few weeks ago, but the situation was brought up again recently. I, 28, male, have a son, Nathan, 6, male. I'm his sole parent because his mother lost custody battle. His school was made aware of this when I removed his mother's details from their system, and his current teacher for grade 1 has not met my ex. Due to the nature of the custody battle, his teacher does know about my ex for safety reasons, as she has been barred from coming to the school to get him. Basically, she knows that if she ever sees me with a woman, it is definitely not my ex. His school has parent-teacher meeting twice a year, once before the Christmas break and another at the end of the academic year. I've been dating my girlfriend, Venus, 24, female, for the past 8 months, and she has an amazing relationship with my son. He likes her a lot, and he asked me if she could come with me to the parent-teacher conference because he wanted her to hear that he's doing well at school. My son used to struggle with English as his mother tongue is Spanish. My Spanish is okay, but Venus is fluent, so she helped him improve his English speaking by tutoring him. At the meeting, I noticed that the teacher was only speaking to Venus. She was making eye contact with her and only directing conversations to her. I found this annoying because although I know most primary parents are women, the teacher is well aware that I'm Nathan's sole parent. Venus kept redirecting the conversation to me, and I did ask a few questions, but the teacher would speak to me for a few seconds and then go back to speaking to Venus only. Eventually, I said, "I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm Nathan's father, and I'd appreciate it if you spoke to me." The teacher seemed taken aback and irritated, but she apologized and spoke to me for the rest of the meeting. I told my brother-in-law, sister's husband, about what happened, and he thinks I overreacted. He said that while he does find it annoying when teachers only speak to my sister at meetings, he understands that it's not out of malice and just a force of habit, since mothers tend to be more involved than fathers. He also said it was my fault for bringing Venus along to the meeting. He thinks it was an a-hole move for me to interrupt the teacher and make her feel like she did something wrong for something that was most likely not malicious. It was brought up again at Christmas because Venus spent it with my family, and my mother asked Venus if she had Nathan's inhaler. And my brother-in-law interrupted and said, "Careful," my mom's name, "Mark, me, might freak now." I would like to put this situation to rest. AITA? Edit. I did tell the teacher that Venus was my girlfriend as soon as we sat down. NTA, but here's something I know both from years of parent-teacher conferences and working in the schools. Teachers often feel very anxious at these meetings and don't enjoy them much. I would give your son's teacher the benefit of the doubt and consider the fact that she was just nervous and didn't realize what she was doing. Hopefully in the future this will not be an issue, but I would let it go this time. I was friends with my daughter's teacher, and she still had a panic attack during our conference. As a person who works with kids, it's because that's the age I work best with. Adults intimidate the heck out of me, and you come across as a very serious, no-nonsense person, which could make a person even more nervous. Not a criticism, just an observation. NTA. The teacher clearly knew you are a sole parent, and yet she directed all her conversation to Venus, whom she is obviously meeting for the first time. She doesn't even know if Venus is involved in Nathan's life or not. Also, you were not mean or rude to the teacher, so your brother's comments are uncalled for. NTA, it was a valid demand, and you made it perfectly polite. The difference between your brother-in-law's experience and yours is that while the teacher may mostly talk to your sister instead of him at parent-teacher conferences, your sister is actually the kid's mother. Not so with Venus and Nathan. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.